use our whip with a big lip, Puddles bow, and have them pick up the leg without even touching it. That is the end result of what we would like before we move on to the next step. Now we're going to talk about the two main problems that you might run into going to this step. The very first thing is your horse needs to stand still. Your horse needs to be able to stand still as you move back to the shoulder and even past the shoulder. That is very, very important. Your horse must stand still. The second thing that you might run into is the first time you tap the horse's leg to ask them to pick it up, they might not respond immediately. It may take a few taps. Don't add more pressure, just make it a consistent tap, a consistent light tap. Tap, tap, tap. And the instant that they lift up their foot, even if it's just the slightest, reward them, because that little bit will add up until you can actually fully get them to pick up their leg to bow. And I promise, eventually they will pick that foot up to try to make that little irritating tap stop. Just like a fly landing on their leg. Let's move on to step 3, placing a single hobble on their leg. Now the most important part with this step is that they stand still so you can safely do it. Now as you notice, my horses are ground tied, so it is much easier for me to put that hobble on. Step 4 is making sure that they're comfortable with having this rope all over their body. Now, once again, the most important thing is that they don't respond or spook or dance around or are afraid of this rope going over their body. Make sure I can swing it over their back, around their bum, down over their hind legs, under their belly, around the front, around their legs, around their back legs, around their back. Now notice that I'm using the soft side of the rope. I definitely don't want to use the side of the rope with the clip because that would hurt my horse and would not be very comfortable. Very important, soft side. So as you can see, Puddles is very cool with having this rope all over him. Now earlier on in this video we talked about equipment, but I'd like to talk about equipment once again. We're going to talk about the bit, the reins, the hobble, and the rope we will be using. So let's start with the bit. As you see, this is a very large full cheek. The reason we use a full cheek is so that the bit has no chance of going through the horse's mouth. Now also notice the reins we're using. These reins are cotton and they are short, and they also are clipped to the bit, so they will easily be removed from the bit if we need to. Very important. Now let's talk about this rope. This is a good size soft cotton rope, so it's much better for our hands. We will not get rope burns. Also, something that's very unique and is very important is this clip right here. Now this clip is a quick release clip. So when this clip is clipped onto something, let's say something is clipped onto this clip. All I have to do to release it is pull this black tab. And what this black tab does is it pulls a little rod and lets that clip come undone, which is very important if I need to quickly unclip that rope. Now the last thing we need to talk about is the hobble. That is it's a soft hobble, so it will not give them sores or rubs, which is very, very important. We prefer this hobble over a nylon or leather hobble because it is soft and will not give them rubs. And you can throw it in the washing machine and easily wash it. So let's move on to step number 5. Step number 5 is taking our clip and clipping it onto our hobble. And we're actually going to combine steps 5 and 6. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to clip it on and we're going to pull some pressure on this hobble. Now the reason we do this is to make sure that the horse is okay with this. If a horse is dancing around and kind of getting nervous about this, then we need to go back and work on it. So as you can see, I'm using a fair amount of pressure to make sure that he's okay with that. He doesn't seem too upset. Now step 6 is taking our rope and dropping it. Now this is at the heart of all the hobble training. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk our horses. And we're going to walk them until they step on that pink rope. And as soon as they step on that pink rope, they're going to feel some pressure. And as soon as they feel that pressure, I'm going to say, ho. What this teaches them is that when they feel pressure, to stop and wait for me to get them out of that situation. And we prefer that they stop instead of feeling that pressure and panic, because we are teaching them, if they get in a situation where they feel pressure or are uncomfortable, to stop and wait for us to get them out of it. And also, while I'm doing this, I never want to just let my horse run around and hope that it stops whenever they feel this. I always want to be right here with my horse, so as soon as they feel pressure, to stop. Hope. Hope. And that's exactly what we're looking for. Step 7 is taking a rope attached to the hobble, putting it underneath their belly, and then over their back, so we're going to take our rope under the belly and over their back, and we are going to ask them to pick up their leg as we did it on the wall. Puddles, bow. And then what we're going to do, bow, is we're going to tighten up that foot, nice and tight. And we're just going to ask them to stand here. And as you see, I took my foot and I lifted up that foot. We want that as tight as possible to avoid any loose feet or dangling or crisscrossing of feet at all. And the first thing we want to do is just make sure that they are comfortable standing like this. They're not fighting. They're not fighting that pressure, and they're accepting just standing there with their foot up. So something that can be very tricky when teaching and demonstrating these exercises on a horse that knows what we're going to do and has done this already is they anticipate what they're going to be asked next. And whenever we're doing this step, it's very important to, as you saw, I used my toe to tighten up the leg as tight to the belly as possible. The reason I do this is because when we first lay a horse down, it's very easy to let this rope slip and then to go back on all 4 feet. Now, we don't ever tie up a horse's leg. They need to be able to get on all 4 feet instantly. But you want to try to keep that leg as tight as possible so that when you are teaching them to lay down, it stays up there the whole entire time. And one of the challenges with this step is the horses have to stand quietly, and he's standing quietly. That is half the battle to teaching your horse to bow, lay down, and sit up. Your horse needs to be able to stand quietly, no matter what you are doing.